Hello, friends from Five Reasons. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Good morning for all of you that are watching this on a Saturday morning when we're recording this. Yes, we're recording this on Saturday at 9 a.m. Well, we're actually live right now with Brady. Brady goes early in the morning. He does all his workouts, shoots, and then he comes and writes articles for Five Reasons. Brady, how are you? How are you feeling after, for the first time, going to a Miami Heat scrimmage?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just glad we got you up by 9 to do this. So that's what
Yeah,
I'm going
Brady.
to.
Brady was last night. He's like, "Can you do a 9?" I was like, "Yeah." I was late last night with Ethan, covering the Marlins. I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I wake up early every day of the week, not on a Saturday, but for you, we do everything here on Five Reasons. So, Brady, how? I mean, talk people here in Five Reasons want to know a little bit of your experience before we go in depth about what went on in the scrimmage. Coming from being a fan of the Miami Heat, of course, you grew up here in Miami, and now having the opportunity to actually go and cover the team, like how how big was that moment for you?
Yeah, I think growing up of covering the media over the past year, it's just been over my phone screen or a computer screen because it's been all over Zoom.
Right.
So that one part was just interesting, just being get to go there, uh, do things in person because obviously Ethan, all these people have experience in person.
Yeah.
First time I ever did it was over Zoom. So yeah, that was kind of the interesting part, just getting to be around it. And then obviously the scrimmage was a replacement. If you guys remember the pink and white scrimmage that they did
Yeah.
uh, 2 years ago, so they kind of did that every year, and then this was the replacement for that. So it was just kind of cool to be around that type of scrimmage, around those type of athletes, especially when it's the Heat. Like you saw yesterday, they don't take a practice scrimmage lightly.
Right. It looked
Like
like a regular season game.
right. So seeing them go hard, compete, talk trash, get a couple close to technical fouls, like that's that was kind of what stood out.
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, Brady took a lot of videos. They're better than Ethan's. You can check them out here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. And it was funny because the players were complaining to the refs, and it's like, okay, they're taking this very, very seriously. So, all right. So, what's the difference between watching the actual game on a TV and being there in person? Like, what other details did you see, like from the players? You get to see different stuff, right? That you don't actually get to to take a look at when you're in front of the TV.
Yeah, I think we know the heights of a lot of these guys and the size of a lot of these guys, but like you don't really know
Right, like they're
until
huge.
like certain guys but like guys like Casey Okpala, like we sit here and talk about him and the offensive need that he has. He has to try to find ability on that end. But as you're sitting there looking at him, you're like, he has to go into his body somehow because the dude is pretty close to being as tall as Bam.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's technically a perimeter player. So it's like a lot of these guys, I don't think you really realize that until you see it. Um, and it's obviously just the level of play at this level, obviously up close, is just completely different. Like the speed that they're playing at, it's just like I feel like that's just the biggest difference. And obviously, when you're looking at the size of them, of some of these guys and the way they kind of use their bodies and the mobility, even when guys aren't, you don't call them mobile compared to NBA players, they're more mobile than the average person.
Right, right. They are, even though I mean, they're huge. They can move very fast. So that happened to me when I went the first time to the Miami Heat locker room, and you're gonna have this experience this season. Brady's gonna be covering the team in FTX Arena with all of us this season, so it's gonna be his first season actually covering in person, and you're gonna enjoy Brady's coverage from the arena. So that's gonna be great. So going into what happened, right? And talking about size, let's start there. Alex, Greg, and Ethan, I think you did a podcast too on this too. Like some of these guys look bigger. Some of these guys look like they actually had a great summer in
Yeah.
the physical aspect. Like, how did that translate to yesterday's scrimmage? What did you see there? Like, could be a tweak from last season.
Yeah, I think the first one that you notice is Jimmy definitely does look a little slimmer, which
Hmm.
I think is pretty important. I think uh, kind of the range of the season, it's not much as he's not going to have to take as much of a beating driving to the rim with a secondary attacker in Kyle Lowry.
Right.
You kind of want him to be a little slimmer. So that was kind of the first thing that kind of stood out. Tyler Hero, I would say, as we saw in the videos, as you saw it's not that he gained a lot of weight up top. It's more that he looks like he put it in his legs to kind of maybe explode more, just quicker. That seems to be his focus. And even the big time dunk he had down the lane, Oladipo jumped up off the bench right in front of him and yelled quads because he's been working on that all offseason. So I think that was another one to kind of look at. I do think Bam definitely looks bigger up top. And as I mentioned, that's going to be absolutely crucial for his offensive game. If he wants to continue to get to the rim and try to get to the free throw line, he's so athletic that he can make acrobatic finishes because he's capable, but obviously you want to take contact when you're his size and you're quicker than most of the guys that are defending you. So I think even yesterday he got to the line a bunch in the scrimmage. So I think you're going to see that more. He's going to take contact, take it up strong. So I think those three guys are kind of what you see first, the biggest size difference. And then obviously I think guys like PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris, they're probably going to have moments where they play at the 5. Like they're not the lengthiest, obviously, but they're big enough, they're strong enough, they compete down low. That was kind of a main takeaway from yesterday. I think we're going to, even though they didn't play at the 5 specifically yesterday, I think that's kind of what we're trending towards.
Yeah, and especially in today's NBA when you can have regular 4s or maybe even 3s playing that position. So I know, like, we have a comment here from Sean, and that's gonna be our last topic of the day. Your response to the Raptors Twitter that we're gonna wait to have that at the end. So, looking at the images, watching your videos, I don't remember Victor Oladipo being so involved with the team last year. I mean, I was there in the last game when he got injured against the Lakers. But even before that, all the games that we had to cover in the arena and watching it from the TV, he used to be more like a calm guy sitting down there and just like, I don't know. I feel like he was still trying to like fit in somehow.
Definitely.
Talk to us a little bit more of what you saw yesterday, because of course we watched the videos, but you were there for like a couple of hours actually watching him interact with the team. So how's that?
Yeah, he was like the one that was kind of right in front of us, sitting on the edge of the bench, and he was the one that was jumping up out of his seat. I kind of looked a couple of times to make sure he didn't get injured and push down the line of his injury process for the season, because he was getting into a practice scrimmage. And it's funny because he's sitting on the bench unit side, and it kind of makes sense because he's rooting for these guys like Max Strus and Tyler Hero and Dedmon. That's the group he's going to be playing with this season. He's going to be alongside these guys at some point, and that's kind of where the depth comes along. But he's definitely vocal. He's definitely getting into it. That I think that's going to be important. The other guy that was getting very vocal on the court, I said, was Jimmy Butler's always been the loudest guy on the floor on his team. Like, there's never been a case where he isn't. This might be the team that it's the first time that he's not going to be the loudest on the floor, because PJ Tucker doesn't stop talking. Like, he's talking to his teammates, like, in a positive way, leadership, talking to his teammates, talking to refs, talking to the other team. Like, does not stop talking, and you kind of want that leadership on the floor. Ethan mentioned before, that's kind of what they missed when Jay Crowder left. It wasn't the volume of his three-point shooting or the defensive ability. It was more just who he was on the floor and his voice. And I think that's what PJ Tucker is going to bring. But Dedmon is too. Like, you're looking at this group, and if you see it, these guys talk and they're vocal and they're tough. Like, if the theme may be toughness, but I think the voice and the leadership that they have across this group, like, they're a loud group when you look at them on the court.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna start. Before we start reading the messages, I have one last question for you. The new guys. Let's give me a little bit of each one of the new guys. What did you see? What you saw yesterday, and then we're gonna start reading a couple of messages that we have here.
Yeah, we'll say, to start from the bottom up, I think the two ways in the Exhibit 10s, I said this before, Caleb Martin was the one that stood out the most. Like, they have defense, they have spot-up shooting, they have a little bit of playmaking across the board in this roster. The one thing that they don't really know they have is shot creation, and that's what Caleb Martin brings. That's his number one ability. We saw that a bit yesterday. The question becomes, can he be a spot-up guy? And I saw that yesterday. He was hitting spot-up threes. Obviously, when I'm talking about this stuff, it's a scrimmage, so obviously we don't know if it's going to translate over completely. This is one day, one scrimmage. But Caleb Martin looked very comfortable. He looked very confident. He was taking the ball to the rim. He was taking step backs and side steps that we've seen him do in Charlotte whenever he got playing time. And the surprise to me with Caleb Martin was that he actually competed on the defensive end at a high level. He was getting some blocks. He was really staying on his guy. Like there was some moments I was really surprised just overall at the guys they had. Marcus Garrett got some time. He was defending at a high level. I think the one question we're going to have, much like KZ, is does he have an offensive ability to keep him on the floor? I think he's going to need a spotted three ball because he doesn't have much of a handle off the dribble to kind of create separation. That he's going to need that three ball, and I think that's going to be a situation where we're going to keep looking at to see if he kind of gains an offensive ability. And then some of the other Exhibit 10s got some run as well. It was interesting because when they asked Bam about who the talks the most trash among the new guys, he said Micah Potter. So that was a little bit interesting. It was kind of just seeing these guys, these young guys that come in and just immediately just aren't afraid to just go at people. But in terms of the other guys, I would say Markieff Morris, like I said, I think we're going to see him at the 5. I think that's kind of the interior play. He was getting some mid-ranges up, and he was consistent from 3 in that scrimmage, and it's all going to come down to efficiency with him. He's going to have the corner shots because obviously Miami's offense is going to pull away from those corner defenders and drawing guys on the tag. PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris are going to be important for that. Tucker didn't shoot the ball at a high level in this scrimmage, but obviously he's a veteran. We know what he kind of brings. There's no really up and down with him. You know he's going to be kind of right in the middle. And then the last guy is Kyle Lowry, which, by the way, when I'm talking about him, I don't have to reflect on his years in Toronto. We kind of know about that up front. So
yeah. We'll leave that for the end. We'll leave that for the end.
Okay.
But what did you see from Lowry?
Yeah, I think it was just immediate leadership, like immediate point guard skills. I kind of take away that we're not going to see him huge in the scoring column. Like he's going to get his points, but he's not going to be the guy that's absolutely killing people scoring wise. Like he's going to feed Bam. He's going to feed Duncan. He's going to feed Tyler. Like there was just some moments where Ethan mentioned the insertion to the post, Bam and Jimmy, just these one-on-ones down low to basically play a game of one-on-one. Like that's what he does. He throws these quarterback. Spo called him a quarterback the other day after practice, and he looks like one. Like he gets that rebound, and he's one hand flinging it down the court to a leaping Jimmy Butler who's just mossing people. So it's like it's just a different speed. And I think the other thing, speaking of speed and Kyle Lowry, the pacing is just a lot different because obviously Miami always likes to slow things down, and Kyle Lowry is more of a fast-paced guy. So that's kind of the interesting part is how they're going to play tempo-wise.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Brady. Now let's start with some of the comments here. What about Gabe Vincent? Our friend Neil is asking about or saying that Gabe Vincent looked really good. I mean, he's been developing. Last year, he actually got a lot of minutes with the team. So how's he looking after the Olympics and all that he went through this summer?
Yeah, I said in that particular scrimmage, if you ask me who had the best game overall, I would probably say Gabe Vincent. Like he just looked very sound. He looked decent in the defensive end, playmaking wise, on ball, role wise. He just looked much more complete. He looked much more confident. He's talked about before. He's been an off ball guy basically his entire career, his entire life. He's been playing spot up wise. He's had to translate into that immediately. He was getting thrown into the starting lineup last season as the starting point guard, having to run their offensive sets. Like he was thrown into the mix really quickly and he had to adjust. And just looking at yesterday, he looked so much more comfortable, just dribbling around, just controlling pick and roll, making passes to the roll man. And then the one question is, he's always been he was known to be a shooter, but that's the one skill that we don't really know about right now because he was having some efficiency issues, some consistency issues from out there. Yesterday, there was no issues in that department. He was, pretty efficient from 3 all around. So just all around from a game perspective, he looked really sound. I think we're going to see him at the backup point. I think Spo really trusts him at the backup point, but obviously game-wise, we're going to need to see him be efficient from 3, but he was yesterday.
Great. Which team won? It's our question from our friend Alex.
Yeah, I think they went like quarter by quarter, like kind of resetting score type thing. But I will say,
play how many games? How many quarters? 4?
4.
Okay.
So I will say that the first, I think it was the first or second one, the bench unit looked real good. Like the starting group was kind of getting run for a little bit with the way they were playing. Obviously, it's a bit different because obviously the starting group is a bunch of veterans that are kind of, even though they're competing hard, there's a certain level that you're not going completely. The bench units, a lot of guys that are just trying to prove themselves, get some extra run, find some minutes for the season. But they were just playing at a completely different pace. Tyler Hero in that second group in that first quarter, the main takeaway from that is that Tyler Hero is going to be handling the ball a lot. Like I really feel they're going to just make him the bucket getter and try to score. But they're going to want him to create a bit and just try to see what he can do. He was getting to the mid-range a lot. Like I said, he had that nice dunk. He was getting to the rim. And obviously it's going to come down to spot-up shooting. Can he bring that up a bit from last season? That was the one kind of dip in his game. From the scrimmage, I don't even think he attempted a catch and shoot three. Like he was playing on the ball that much. And he actually looked good from a facilitating perspective. He was, dishing out. He was getting to the rim, kind of drawing people in, throwing a bunch of kickouts. That I think that's something different that we've seen. We've seen him get stuck in the air a lot. A lot of young guys do.
And then
right.
Didn't know what to do. Yeah.
So it's a development. I think it also has a little bit to do with strength. So that added strength could help then. It's just going to come down to making instinctive decisions.
Okay. What about UD? He wasn't there, right? So
yeah, he wasn't there. He was the only one that wasn't there.
Okay. Bad Boy Heat, our friend Alex saying that down here. Brian Wilpon, I'm sorry. What did you see from Omer Yurtseven?
Yeah, I think we expected a little bit more. He just didn't look very comfortable, I'll say. Like, it wasn't that he played terribly. It was just that he would look like he was just trying to belong, I'll say. That he was just trying to find himself, which is expected. Like, he hasn't played yet. He may not be a two-way. He may have got signed to a contract because they wanted to lock him up, but he's still learning this level of play. Forcing him to match up with guys like Bam is not the easiest thing to do. He wasn't really attempting anything from the outside. He was trying to get some work down low, and I think that's kind of a thing they're focusing on. Obviously, they know he can shoot it. He works on his shot. He was working on it after the scrimmage. They know that's there. I think it's just more developing post control against bigger guys, against NBA level guys. But obviously his aggression just wasn't really there. And we know that defensively, he's not really a powerhouse defensively. He's just a pretty decent rim protector because of his size. But there definitely is some development there because defensively, defending pick and rolls in that drop, he'll probably have to be a little bit, like I said, same thing with Tyler, just a bit more instinctive with what he's doing. But obviously, I think that'll come with time. So I don't think there's too much to look into that.
Right, and Dwayne Dedmon's still there, so
right.
We'll see who Eric's supposed to trust first. Probably Dedmon at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So what about Max Strus? Last question before we wrap it up with our statement from Brady.
Yeah, I think my main takeaway from Strus is just that he's just consistent all around. Like as a player, like even if he's not having an efficient game, having an efficient night, you know what you're going to get from Max Strus, basically. I think the biggest thing is I asked him even after practice about kind of what he feels about that on-ball role with the ball in his hands, because he did that so much in summer league. Coaches basically went to him and said, "You're our guy. You're going to have the ball in your hands. We're going to test you and see what you can do." And he showed up in summer league. So I think that was interesting to see. He was coming off a lot of curls, driving to the rim. He had some nice finishes. And obviously he was shooting the ball like he does in games. I just think his consistency all around, you know what you're going to get from him. And if you look at the players that Coach Spo likes, it's guys that you know what you're getting from a game-to-game basis. And that's Max Strus. And that's a lot of guys in this team. I think that's why I said when you're looking at these younger guys down the line, like Caleb Martin's the one guy out of all that grouping that you kind of know what you're going to get if you plug and play and throw him into a game. He's probably the next one up. If there was an injury, if there was things to go on, he would probably get thrown in. But Max Strus looks good, and I think he's definitely going to have a decent role off the bench. You're going to see him probably at the scorer's table if Duncan gets those 2 quick fouls to start the game, or when Duncan's walking out at the 6-minute mark or 3-minute mark, you're going to see him coming in. And his role is going to be simple. It's going to be just kind of a Duncan light type role, but a little bit more open because he can come off those curls, try to get to the rim, and try to create for himself a little bit more.
Right. Okay, so last comment, and with this, we're going to finish. Can we get an official statement from Brady to Raptors Twitter? This is from our friend Sean Rochester. So what happened, Brady? What was going on yesterday with Raptors Twitter?
Yeah, I guess if you bring up Kyle Lowry's name and describe a play that happens in a practice, I guess that's disrespecting the championship he won.
The legacy.
in Toronto. That one's on me. That was a little disrespectful to say he hit a three at the top of the key. That was a little messed up, but yeah, I don't, I don't even know, man. It's just that looked a little defensive. Obviously, I'll be waiting for Goron. I'll be waiting for Goron to hit a three in Toronto to kind of ask them
To get
about.
back at him.
Yeah, if Goran hits a three in Toronto, I'm gonna ask for a 10-page essay front and back on the mechanics he had in Miami. So no, anyway, Kyle he looked good though overall, and I think all jokes aside, I think he just fits in well. We know what he did in Toronto. We know the stuff he did defensively, playmaking, shooting. He's not growing as a player. It's just plugging in, and we saw that yesterday immediately. All the stuff he did in Toronto, he was already doing in the scrimmage yesterday.
Right. So, well, thank you, Brady, for sharing your first experience. Of course, we're going to have Alex Toledo on Monday there for the next scrimmage. The preseason continues, and our coverage of the Miami Heat continues here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Brady, enjoy your Saturday, your Sunday, and then we'll be back talking to you sometime soon, all right? Thank you very much.
It.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. Remember, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave your comments here. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to start ramping up our coverage of the Miami Heat here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Ryan says, Brady, apologize to no one. You tell those dinosaurs to kick rocks. Yeah, I agree with Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. Thank you, Brian, as well. Thank you to Rich Organics, to Neil, to Alex, to all of the guys that commented here during the stream. And like I said before, we're going to start giving you guys more content here on the YouTube channel. I'm going to try to do more of these interviews with some of our guys. We did it with Ethan after media day, now with Brady after his first experience covering the Miami Heat actually in person. Good morning, Ace. You're here a little bit later. I know you were here earlier, I think. Yeah, you were. So thank you for joining us. Good morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you back here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel sometime soon.